Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. A weird watch on the WWE Network on Peacock. Checked out the WWE's Royal Rumble 2005. This is the Rumble most famously known by WWE's commercial that they made where it sort of went West Side Story, and they were all clapping and and I guess that's not clapping. I guess that's snapping and singing about getting ready for the Royal Rumble. All the guys are wearing the big greaser toupees. Rey Mysterio has the mask with the toupee on there. One of the most funniest things of the whole commercial. JBL, who already has the hair, doesn't wear the toupee, just has his normal hair in there. This is most famously known for when TNA found out that they were filming the commercial at Universal's lot, where they filmed their show, and they filmed the vignette sort of invading the WWE commercial. Rey Mysterio came over. Road Dogg, who was working for TNA at the time, basically told him, "Congratulations, you're fired." Some people, no way in the world came close to crossing that line, but the people that gave no cares just went out and just basically greeted the TNA guys, greeted their friends, and all that. But all in all, I thought the Royal Rumble 2005 was a really, really good show. We're mainly going to focus on the Royal Rumble itself. The Royal Rumble throughout the show had its own kind of storyline that was going that night, which was Eddie Guerrero and Ric Flair basically went to go pick their numbers from the tumbler machine with Teddy Long and Eric Bischoff, as well as Tori Wilson. And I can't think of the other girl that was saying it in there. Something that I think is lost from the WWE. I honestly really miss like the pre-show or even like the week building up to it, where they would have the wrestlers go in on Raw and SmackDown, pick their numbers, and we could see their reaction. We wouldn't know what their number was. But it kind of would set you up for that night, knowing if it was going to be a good night, a hard night, or if they felt really great about their number, something just really that small. This is one of the last times that I can really remember them showing this part of the show. But Eddie Guerrero, who looked really, really down about his number, watched Ric Flair celebrate picking his pick. And in a moment where they sort of greeted each other, Ric Flair gets his number swiped by Eddie Guerrero. Later on during the show, basically they run to the teacher, and they're complaining to Eric Bischoff and Teddy Long. It's not fair that Eddie stole the number. Eddie has to give the number back. And when the Royal Rumble starts, we learn that Eddie Guerrero has drawn at number 1. And he is going to be greeted by number 2, Chris Benoit. The Royal Rumble itself, you put 2 really good workers out there that are going to get the show started off hot. It's something to do even to today. They still put out there that they're going strong. Number 3, they're greeted by Daniel Puder, who was the winner of Tough Enough. I guess it's Tough Enough 3. He famously beats The Miz, even though The Miz goes on to have one hell of a career. But Puder has one hard day at the office. He's out there getting slapped by Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit. It's chops and suplexes. And then Hardcore Holly comes out at number 4 and just beats the tarnations out of this dude. Daniel Puder all but eliminates himself to get out of this. This, of course, is all heat, basically building off of the Daniel Puder versus Kurt Angle. I think that Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Hardcore Holly were sort of like taking one for the locker room, where basically they were trying to teach him a lesson that this is not the world that you come from. This is the WWE. There's kind of standards and practices. There's rules that need to be followed, and they taught him a lesson the hard way. Number 5 comes out the Hurricane. Number 6, Kenzo Suzuki. I'll tell you this much. 2005, I don't really know when I turned Monday Night Raw back on one night and basically said, I'm going to check this out. But it is somewhere roughly around this time. I don't really remember the Royal Rumble in real time, but I know that it was on the road to WrestleMania that I came in, and Batista was making his choice, whether if he was going to go to SmackDown and fight for the championship, or if he was going to fight Triple H and sort of break up Evolution. That's sort of what got me back in. Kenzo Suzuki is somebody that I have no memory of. I have no clue if this guy was over or anything like that. But followed by him was Edge, who was coming off a match with Shawn Michaels earlier in the night, where he actually pinned Shawn 1, 2, 3. We'd be seeing Edge for a while that night. Rey Mysterio comes out number 8, followed by Shelton Benjamin. Then we have Booker T. And if you can see, like, we're kind of layered. It's almost going Raw, SmackDown, Raw, SmackDown, Raw, SmackDown, all the way down the numbers. Shortly after Booker T makes his entrance, we actually see Eric Bischoff, the leader of Monday Night Raw, come running down to ringside. I can't think in the history of the Royal Rumble. I know that in Survivor Series, they would have the managers come out and still manage, even if there was a team that would have various managers. You'd have 4 managers on the outside managing one Survivor Series team, but never have I ever seen anybody come down and try and like cheerlead on during a Royal Rumble. But Eric Bischoff is at a point in this brand split that he wants a win for the Monday Night Raw brand. I think that honestly, when Bischoff was in charge of Raw and Stephanie was in charge of SmackDown, I think that there was more of a rivalry on TV of them going back and forth. But even though the brand split started, when was the first draft? 2002. I think right here they're really getting the brand split over. Normally when you're watching the Royal Rumble and people are on Raw and people are on SmackDown, it's kind of like a class reunion where, people see each other and it's like, oh, I haven't seen you in a year. But this year in the Royal Rumble, it's almost like, even though Raw guys have problems with Raw guys and SmackDown guys have problems with SmackDown guys, they put that aside. And it's just basically it's Raw versus SmackDown. It's everything that, bragging rights or Survivor Series these days was supposed to be. These guys are really just going at it. Number 11, we have Chris Jericho, followed by Luther Reigns. Once Luther gets out there, it's basically 8 guys out there in the Rumble, and the 4 Raw guys and the 4 SmackDown guys sort of like face off, like Wild Wild West style, where basically they come out to the middle of the ring and they're just fighting action, just going back and forth, just trading blows. It's all punching, and they're going at it. The second number 13 comes off. It's Muhammad Hassan. Muhammad Hassan, most famously, was the Middle East sympathizer who basically was, coming to America, and everybody was against him in the world of, 24 was hot at the time, I guess you can say. Muhammad Hassan's run has been covered by, I think they just did the Dark Side of the Ring on him, but it was not long for Muhammad Hassan in WWE. But he comes down and basically the Royal Rumble stops. Much like when Daniel Puder came out earlier, and basically all 8 guys beat up Muhammad Hassan. Rey Mysterio hits him with the 619. And then Booker T, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, Edge, Luther Reigns, and Shelton Benjamin all pick up Muhammad Hassan and eliminate him from the Royal Rumble. We have Orlando Jordan, coming out number 14. Um, and then Scotty 2 Hotty, his number comes up at number 15, and as he's making his way to the ring, Muhammad Hassan is licking his wounds, trying to make his way to the back, and he just beats up Scotty 2 Hotty for just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. He gets it so bad that he just doesn't even get in the ring to compete in this year's Royal Rumble. We have Charlie Haas come out at number 16, followed by Rene Dupree, number 17. Simon Dean, he is trying his best to steal the show, doing as little amount of work as possible. He comes out at number 18. He comes down, and as he's making his way to the ring, he wants to, have a protein shake. He's trying to work out and get ready. He's doing his stretches. He's doing his band workout, I guess you can say. Jim Ross is on the outside, just throwing a fit. That Simon Dean came to work and he was not ready that day. He finally gets into the ring after Shawn Michaels makes his number 19. Shawn is all fired up getting into the ring. He's already had a loss earlier in the night. He needs this Rumble win to get a championship shot come WrestleMania. But as Shawn gets into the ring, Shawn starts fighting with everybody, and he looks at Simon Dean almost like when Mike Knox got eliminated at the Survivor Series, when it was Team DX versus Team RKO, and he just knocks out Simon Dean. Like, who the heck was that guy? We are joined by Kurt Angle at number 20. Big surprise in this Rumble. Kurt Angle is only 30 seconds in. Angle had a match earlier in the night where he was going up against the Big Show and JBL for the SmackDown Championship, and it was light work for Angle in the Rumble because he comes in, he hits about 4 Angle slams in a row, boom, 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 boom. Turns around and just gets eliminated by Shawn Michaels, surprisingly. We're joined number 21 by Jonathan Coachman. Somehow he spends about 13, 14 minutes in this Rumble, coming down looking like Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'm not sure if this is before, during, or after that Cyber Sunday ordeal where Coachman was supposed to have a match against Steve Austin, and then as Steve got the word is that Vince was planning on having Coachman get the win. Steve says, "Yeah, I'm not doing that," and he ends up getting replaced by Batista. At the time, that's the show where Coachman ends up getting backup from Vader and Goldust coming back to make their returns in WWE at the time. Around this time that Mark Jindrak comes down at number 22, we have Angle come back down because he's just in so disbelief that he loses and is not going to win this Royal Rumble, that he eliminates Shawn Michaels. And because of the fact that, Shawn gets eliminated by a guy who's not even in the Rumble anymore, we completely see them lose their brains. They're fighting just about everywhere. They're setting up their WrestleMania 21 match. I think it's one of the greatest matches in wrestling history. I would put it up there with Undertaker and Triple H at WrestleMania 27 as one of my favorite matches ever, honestly. We have Viscera with Matt Striker coming out at number 23, followed by Paul London. Paul London has one of the best elimination spots of all time, where he comes in and just basically gets killed by a clothesline on the outside from Gene Snitsky, who would come in at number 26, where basically he just turns London inside out, where he's eliminated from the apron all the way down to the floor. Most famously, he was told that he was trying too hard. It looked really, really nice, but it was just too big of a spot for him, I guess. And yeah, it was just one of those things with London that every single time he did something good, they told him he was doing something bad. Number 25 was followed by John Cena. I was surprised how loud that crowd gets for John Cena. I understand he's the United States champ at this time. I completely understand why Cena is picked to be like the golden goose of the company, because that place loses their mind on his way down to the ring. Number 26 were followed by Gene Snitsky, who's followed by number 27, Kane. Earlier in the night, we had a casket match that both of these guys were involved in with Heidenreich and The Undertaker. That's probably the reason why both of those guys are missing from this Rumble, because they knew somebody had to get buried that night in this casket, and it wouldn't make a lot of sense if these guys were both going to be competing in the Royal Rumble later that night. But Kane ends up, hiding in the casket, getting involved in this match. It was heavily rumored at WrestleMania 21 that we were going to get a tag match between Undertaker and Kane, Snitsky and Heidenreich. I think it's really good that neither of these things happened. 21 in my mind, I think, is Mark Henry. But the 21, 22, 23 are the ones that kind of get jumbled in my mind. So I'm not really 100% sure where The Undertaker goes for there. But we're followed by number 28, who would be Batista. Batista is another guy. I mean, it would be really hard to pick Cena or Batista, who these guys were over. Cena was fighting in singles competition at the time. He was the United States champ on SmackDown. He really hadn't had any huge feuds, but he had single promos where he came out and he did like the rapper gimmick, and was really over. Batista was, third wheel in the Evolution. He was just kind of doing the bidding for Triple H. You could see the works of him breaking off from Evolution, but it really hadn't been done yet. And, they had sort of pulled the strings that Evolution was going to implode so many times that you didn't really believe it until you actually saw it. So for Batista to be so over at number 28 when he's still a bad guy, real crazy. But you understand that they're in a good spot as long as they can pick some good matches for these guys and some good quality booking. They're going the right way with Batista leading Monday Night Raw, John Cena leading SmackDown. Of course, once we hit the draft, both of these guys are going to switch in a pretty surprising shot. Cena ends up being the number 1 pick during the Jericho what was his show? The highlight reel. And then Batista ends up coming out as the last pick, as the last big switch. But you knew they weren't going to keep both champions on Monday Night Raw, even if Raw was the A show at the time. Christian comes out at number 29, followed by Ric Flair, number 30. You almost forgot about his angle with Eddie Guerrero earlier in the night, but Flair gets his moment coming out number 30. He would only last about 2 minutes, but he is in the final 5, which led us down to John Cena, Batista, Edge, and Rey Mysterio. Match kind of stops for a minute, but we pick up the action where Rey Mysterio let's just start with this. Edge hits 2 big spears. He spears Batista, he spears John Cena, he goes to spear Rey Mysterio, but Rey jumps over Edge, which leaves him able for a 619. When Edge is recovering from the 619, Mysterio tries to hit him with the springboard off the ropes, and Edge, catches it, throws him back, and then eliminates him with a spear outside of there. When Edge comes to, he runs over to where Batista and John Cena are fighting near the ropes. He makes the mistake of kind of going to the middle, and both guys just pick up Edge and just dump him over the top rope. This is where shenanigans comes to be. And this is, of course, one of the most famous Royal Rumble endings that, if you really think about it, could have been fixed by them just not doing anything. You got to remember, Batista is on Raw, Cena is on SmackDown. When it comes to WrestleMania 21, we have John Cena going after the championship with JBL. We have Batista going up against Triple H. Both of these guys in the championship matches. I don't know what Cena has to do to become the number one contender over on SmackDown to go after the championship. I don't remember them having like a chamber match that year for him to win, but knowing SmackDown, it was probably just some like SmackDown Battle Royal where the guys fought it out. I know the next pay-per-view would end up being, I think, No Way Out, where Big Show fights Kurt Angle in that steel cage match with the barbed wire around the top, where nobody could get out. But, or no, is it JBL versus Big Show? I'll tell you the truth. I don't think I've ever seen that match or that show in my life. So that's the reason why I don't know what Cena has to do to win. Maybe he has to win some 4-way or something like that. But if you really think about it, what happens is Batista goes to powerbomb John. And John uses his weight for Batista basically to tip over. And as John's about to get eliminated from the Royal going over the top rope, he ends up hitting the top rope. At that point, Batista was supposed to skin the cat, where he was supposed to grab the rope himself. John would fall to the floor, and then Batista would save himself getting back into the ring. Batista doesn't save himself. Batista just goes straight down to the floor. And we have both guys laying on the outside. Nobody knows what to do. Referees are lost. They're trying to pick a victor, but at the same point, they don't know. The only thing that can happen is Vince McMahon comes out from the back. He throws his jacket down in disgust. He's huffing and puffing his way down to the ring. And then he gets into the ring. And boom. Vince can't get up. On the way to the ring, getting into the ring, somewhere around there, Vince McMahon tore one of his quads. And he's not able to get up. By the end of the night, the story is that Vince tore both of his quads. Vince didn't want to sell the injury in front of the boys, so basically he doesn't get help. He doesn't get a wheelchair. He doesn't get a stretcher. He doesn't have the guys carry him to the back or anything like that. Vince wants to walk because he wants to prove how big and bad he is. It's just one of those weird Vince McMahon stories from back in the day. But if they just would have basically said, hey, we got a Raw guy, we got a SmackDown guy. We're going to have two winners of the Royal Rumble, much like 1994. 1994, we didn't have a brand split. So basically, when Luger and Brett went over and both the floor at the same time, they set up a tournament where Luger would fight Yoko first, and then the winner would fight Bret Hart. And to make it where it was not, easy for the second guy, they made Bret have a match against Owen that year to kind of even the odds. But instead, they ended up getting the guys back into the ring, ringing the bell, and saying there must be a winner. Somehow Vince gets out of the ring, and he's on the outside. He can't stand, so he's just kind of sitting there. And we have, the kind of the same finish, but this time it works and Batista wins. I don't know. Vince McMahon told Batista that he loved it. At this time, Batista was still in fear of being in the WWE. That he really thought he was going to get fired that night. He thought he was going to get fired in the ring. He tells a story on his Batista I Walk Alone DVD that when Vince came down huffing and puffing, he thought it was to fire him, and then he had a meeting the next day. He thought it was coming there, but Vince told him that he loved it, that it showed the fans anything in WWE can happen, and just kept the show alive. So, like I said, Batista would keep us kind of wondering what he was going to do. But of course, we have the big thing where if he's going to sign a SmackDown contract or if he's going to fight Triple H at Raw and he's given the big thumbs up. It turns to thumbs down. And it's Triple H versus Batista at WrestleMania. I think it's a turning point for the company. It doesn't, lift them to high standards. But like I said, for me, I hadn't been watching wrestling since WrestleMania 19 is about when I quit, somewhere around there during the Triple H and Steiner matches. When Steiner came back on Monday Night Raw, and then they had a pose down, they had a debate, and I just was basically saying, like, what am I doing with my life? I've talked about this, many times, but 2005 got me back in, so it can't be that bad. So peace out, everybody. Royal Rumble 2005 talk. I can't wait to see what's going down in the future.